of the time I have photographs that I take and I save them because there's something that I'm really considering painting. But sometimes there's a little something wrong with it here or there and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's something I know I like, but I can't paint it quite the way that it is. So let me show you one of those right here, and ignore my birds. This is one of those photos. I love it. There's just something very special about these beautiful little fluffy, I don't know, it's a weed of some kind, but I just think it's beautiful. But I cannot decide what to do about the background. If I have that horizon way back there, it's really distracting in this photo. I've tried bringing it down and just used my Procreate to kind of draw in some darker stuff. While the dark in the background was helpful to bring out the light of these flowers, it was a little too dark. And then I tried putting a little sky in there. There's a tiny bit up here, but not very much. Nothing seemed to work. What I think I'm going to do is just leave this part here and bring that up higher and have no horizon at all. I think that's going to work for me in this painting. So let's go and see what we can do with it. We'll design a painting, and we may or may not make it better. Hopefully we will. Laying down a little bit of lavender in the background. Because if you squint your eyes, you will see some lavender in the foliage in the background. There's yellow ochre in there. There's light greens and dark greens. As I get to the mid-ground, I use a little less water and a little more concentrated lavender. Coming down lower, I go into some actual dioxazine purple because the grass coming forward has more color, more hue, more depth, and it will have more definition, depending on where I want my focal point. You can put more definition any place in the photo or in the painting that you want, if that's where you want your viewer's eye to go. But this is a very close-up of the whole plant, so you will see some of the tall grasses in the front with more definition. I'm adding a little warmth back here now, a little yellow ochre mixed with my lavender. A little bit of ultramarine blue, very lightly in the background to give us some aerial perspective. Some green up front, just a little bit, with some yellow ochre for more warmth up there. You can see it's darker up front. A little yellower or lighter green as we go into the mid-ground. Not really yellower, just add a little white to it to lighten it up. Go back down to the bottom and darken it up a little bit more with some green mixed with the dioxazine purple. Some olive green. Because we're going to be putting some light stems and some dark stems on top of this, and I need some contrast against those stems or you'll never see them. Little strokes, never more than an inch or two long. This is just an acrylic background that I will be working over. So I've already given myself the feeling of texture in the painting before I've actually started the painting itself. And now I'm putting in the warmth where the flowers or whatever this little plant is, this little fluffy weed, is going to go. I'm laying in where I want those little tufts to go from the plant. So I'm designing the painting right now. What do we have here? All different kinds of colors. Everything from reds to oranges to yellows to greens. I have some dark colors like ultramarine blue to mix over here with my burnt sienna when I want to go really dark. I've got some dioxazine purple that I will probably mix with some greens to really make them dark. All different shades of greens, lavenders, and my Gamblin gel that works very well with my water mixable oils. And of course my white. And a completely dry canvas, which only took a couple of minutes to dry. So we'll begin this painting. So I've got some colors mixed up here in my warm tones, my cool tones, some a little bit more orange and some a little more green. Kind of the colors I want in the flowers and in some of the leaves. Just laying down my background in oil now. A little scumbling, getting in those base colors, the darker on the bottom, the lighter on the top. Laying in. I'm going to call these flowers, even though it's a weed, because it just makes it simpler so you understand what I'm talking about, because I guess it's the weed's flower. So we're putting in the flower so I can place them where they're going to go. Sorry, my hand's in the way. I'll zoom in a little so you can see. These little flowers or buds have kind of a fuzzy little end to them. So the way that you apply the paint does matter. using a very skinny brush. To get a few blades of grass, simulate the weeds in the grass. This is a fairly fat rigger brush as riggers go. I have several thinner than this, but I want fat blades of grass. Remember, I decided not to put a horizon in the back, but as things go farther back, you don't see the details. So yes, I want you to know there's some grass back there still, but I'm leaving some of that lavender to show the fact that we are getting some aerial perspective, some things with less yellow and green in the back. So each layer builds upon the one before it. A little lighter, a little thicker paint, a little more detail. So we look like we have a dense little area of grass with this beautiful little weed sticking straight up out of the middle. Let me apologize again for putting my arm in the way. It's so hard to figure out a good place to put this camera so you can see, since I don't have anybody who can adjust it as I move. Sometimes I have to get in front of it. I made this leaf a little lighter than I wanted. I do want to go to leaves that light, but not yet. I want to build them up slowly from dark to medium to light. So I think I went over this and darkened it up just a little bit after I put a few in and realized they might be a little too light. But yes, you begin to put the blades of grass in. And this is how you do it, with the rigger brush or with a very narrow brush with a sharp edge. Try to follow the way a piece of grass would grow. It grows up and then it folds over. Yes, some of them have to go right out of the painting. That's how grass is. Can't just be perfectly aligned with what you're painting. So I go back and forth from dark to medium to light until I fill this in. Got to get those little centers of the flowers in, right where the stem meets the flower. It's a little darker. And then these little tiny peripheral stems work their way through the flower to hold all those little tiny fuzzy pieces on. Kind of the way the dandelion flowers are. This photo came from a day that my husband and son and I took a little hike out at Weedon Island in St. Petersburg, Florida. We saw so many beautiful things out there. Just the flowers beside the walkways and the berries and all the beautiful boardwalks. There's even a giant tower there that you can climb way up to the top and take photos from. I think a couple of these pictures were from the top of the tower. So back to the painting, putting in the little details. At this point in the painting, the way you use your brush, how you load your paint, your rhythm of application, all makes a big difference in your painting. Generally speaking, you start out with thinner layers and go to thicker layers. Generally in oil painting, you start with darker, you go to lighter most of the time. I did start pretty early with these flowers because I really needed to key my painting to the color of those flowers. We don't know what's growing in the forest. It's not really important. All kinds of things are there. So, no, we don't have to make everything symmetrical. But I want to add color, vibrance. And then you have to know when to stop. So add a little yellow in here, here, and there. Not exactly even with that. Over here, maybe. And one right here. I don't really care what it is. It just is adding to my painting, that's all. A little yellow that I'll put some white on to tone back down again. This is my little rendition of the scene. It does not have to be perfect. It doesn't really matter if you copied it exactly. Just add color where you think you need it. I think it came really pretty. Hope to see you all next time.